Hello, hello. You're tuned into episode 102 of the Steam Deck podcast, Flip Screen Games weekly podcast, all about Valve's portable PC powerhouse, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Stephen Radford, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Max Wright.
Ahoy, ahoy, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. For the listeners, this is the second episode 102 because last week's 102 got lost.
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo. Last week's 102 got lost. Very sad. We're back again, doing it again, but entirely different. So we spoke before about Triggers Broom. This is the Triggers Brooms of episode 102. Because it's the exact same show, but all of the parts are completely different. Apart from the only thing.
Yeah, you're still here, and you're going to tell us all about Deadlock, right? The full run through of the game.
Please don't make me do that again. Please don't make me do that again.
We're not going to talk about Deadlock this week. Obviously, Deadlock is available. It's out. That's what was spoken about last week. We will probably revisit Deadlock in a future episode. If you're interested in that, let us know in the comments. But if not, keep listening to this week's episode because we're going to be talking about EmuDeck Machines. So obviously, EmuDeck is the beloved, I guess not really plugin, but piece of software that people use on the Steam Deck in order to add retro emulators and retro games to not only their Steam Deck, but also their Steam library. It provides seamless integration. It sets up all of the controller configurations. It does literally everything that you could want.
Everything. It's the one of those things that when people say to me like, oh, I'd really like to do that on the Steam Deck, but it seems really complicated, or like, oh, I've been putting it off because it seems like it's too tough. I'm like, there's two steps. You download it, you run it, and then you're golden. And then it's all done for you. There's no tinkering whatsoever, and it's a great bit of kit.
You dump all the ROMs yourself from the copies of the games that you have.
Yeah.
You somehow get a hold of the BIOS from the hardware that you also own.
You just simply take the BIOS out of the PS2. It's so simple. It's one step. It's you just take the BIOS out and then you put it on the Steam Deck. It's so simple. I've obviously done it every time I've ever had a new sort of Steam Deck or a new machine or something like that. I've got them all sitting around. Your Honor.
Exactly the same as you. I do the exact same thing. Yeah. I just crack open the PS2 and there's a little chip there that says BIOS. You just take that out and you just...
It's a USB stick. You just plug it straight in. Yeah, it's easy. Meant to, yeah. That's what the PS2 port on the back of old motherboards is for. It's for plugging the PS2 in. So you can download. Yeah, that's what that's for.
I wondered what that was for. That's still around for some reason on some
it's on the back
these days.
Pretty sure it's on the back of this motherboard. Well, I say that this is a new motherboard. Actually, it might not be. The other day at work, someone was like, "Oh, I found something on my desk the other day. I think you might find useful." And it was a PS2 to USB adapter. I was like, "Oh yeah, thanks. No, I'm sure I'll find a use for this. Thank you."
You definitely won't. You never will. No one ever uses PS2.
No.
But a piece of hardware that doesn't have a PS2 port is the EmuDeck Machine. So they've launched their Indiegogo this week, and they are essentially making a tiny little Linux PC. It looks like a Dreamcast. There's no getting away from it. It looks like a Dreamcast. Got all the 4 controller ports on the front that you can plug into their USB ports. So they're not actually controller ports, but you can use them as that. And on the back, it's got a USB-C port, a single USB-C port. Presumably that's how it gets power, an HDMI, 4K HDMI port, and 2.5 gigabits per second Ethernet. And then you've got the standard power and reset switch on the top where they would be on the Dreamcast, which is quite cool.
Why Dreamcast? Is that just because like Sega's the least litigious out of all the companies?
I don't know. I got to say, I really don't like the design of it. I don't know why.
It's bland.
It's bland. There's like no branding on there that says it's EmuDeck. It's just a big circle where there doesn't need to be a big circle because there's no disc tray. But I know people like these mini consoles, and Sega's obviously not done a mini Dreamcast. I don't think we'll ever get a mini Dreamcast from them. And it's been, 35 years since the Dreamcast? It was $99.99. So it's like, maybe, kind of ties up a little bit there.
25.
25, yeah, I'm not that old. 25 years.
I was $9.99. How old are we? The first time I ever saw this, my instant thought was that's just a 3D printed shell for a Raspberry Pi. And I wonder if it was just like, oh, this is an available form factor for us. And it wasn't like we designed it this way. It could just be that this is the design of it, I guess. Like they wanted something that fit the bill without having to design it custom, and this was it.
I think it is custom though, because it says
Okay.
it's a custom retro inspired shell, and
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see the word custom in red there
yeah,
somehow.
the custom is there, and you can choose to get this in two ways. We'll touch on the the custom mode DIY, where basically you just get the ITX case, you get a power supply unit, it's 200 watts. You get the power and reset switches, you get a Wi-Fi cable that you can hook up to the chip, and then you get all the I/O ports. But you've got to provide your own hardware. Then you don't get anything else included. If you already have like the hardware laying around from like an old PC or something, that might be a good route to go down because it's just a standard ITX case. But if you don't and you just want an out of the box solution, which I presume is what most people will want, you can buy their pre-built machines. There was initially, when they announced this, 2 SKUs of that. There was the EM1 and the EM2. They've since dropped the EM1 because I think from feedback that most people gave them, it was severely underpowered and people just weren't interested in that machine. So they're focusing entirely on the EM2 now. So it comes with a Ryzen APU and just a standard motherboard. There's literally just 2 things in there. Everything else is included on that main board. And you get a GameSir controller, which I'd never seen before. The GameSir Nova Lite controller. It looks suspiciously like a Stadia controller.
That's what I was thinking. It looks just like a Stadia, but it looks like there's a couple of turbo buttons on there, so you're definitely getting that turbo. Yeah, it does look like Mad Catz. Like, why would you not try and partner with someone like 8-Bit Dough or one of those companies that's sort of known for making quality stuff? Maybe it's a cost thing. Maybe you'd have to like up the price of it by 35 quid.
Well, I'm not going to shit on GameSir because I've not tried their controllers. They might be pretty solid.
It's true.
And it may be that this offers something that those 8-Bit Dough controllers don't offer for the same similar price point. It might be. And also, to be honest, do most people even care? You can buy this in the US without a controller. In the UK and the rest of the world, you have to have the controller. I would imagine most people are just going to hook up a PS5 controller or an Xbox controller to it and use that instead.
I do. Got a nice Xbox One here. The name GameSir sort of makes me think of like a YouTuber
like a
you might have watched when you were
Boy.
younger. No, I was thinking more like a shit YouTube channel when the guy's like got one of those mustaches tattooed on his finger and he's like, "Welcome to GameSir." Which I'd never want to.
Can we set that YouTube channel up and get used to that? Like, can you really commit to it though and get the mustache tattooed?
I'll get the tattoo. Sure, yeah. You guys are going to pay for it, right?
Yeah, I'll pay for you to get the mustache tattoo. It'd be like 25 quid at some.
Is that it?
At some
How much
dodgy
tattoos cost?
Some dodgy skeggy tattoo parlor.
Oh, okay. No, I'll just do it myself. How much is ink and needles? Not much, right?
You could like, what do they call it? Poke and dot or whatever it's called.
Stick and poke.
Stick and poke. You can stick and poke your mustache on your finger.
How much is antibiotics?
That we have national healthcare here, so
yeah, we do.
It's the low price of £9.80 for the prescription.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Back to this quickly. I'm looking at this now. Hang on. So it seems like they've only sold, quick maths, 30.
They've not sold many. You're correct on that.
Only sold 33.
Yeah, you are correct on that. And yet somehow they've got they've hit 35 backers, so they must have sold 35. And that's £18,000 they've sold so far. It's 34% of their £53,000 goal. But remember, this is an Indiegogo. They get that money no matter what. And Indiegogo does not have the same level of restrictions that, say, Kickstarter does. Like, your money could be at risk here. It's the same as any kind of crowdfunding campaign. I think we trust the EmuDeck team, and I don't think that they would want to do something to put their kind of name and their team and the kind of credence that they've built up over the years.
Yeah, definitely not. No, I think they're definitely like, in the time that since it launched or since the Steam Deck came out, we've seen them make leaps and bounds. They've got like a new UI. They've added sort of new things into it. They've made things easier. They've sort of, moved into Patreon and things like that, and that's all great. This does feel like the logical next step for them. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but this feels like you can only you're supporting the Steam Deck, you're supporting all these things, but to then be able to
see, to me, it doesn't feel like the logical next step. The logical next step would have been building, I think, their own custom flavor of Linux and having like a full game mode and going down that route. But they've opted to use Bazzite. We'll get onto the software in just a second because I do want to touch on the hardware while we're at it. So this has a Ryzen Zen 4 8600G. Means nothing to me, probably means nothing to most people, but it's a decent chip from what I can tell. And on that APU is a Radeon 760M, so it's a mobile chip overclocked to 3.1 gigahertz. There's 16 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, 512 gigabyte NVMe SSD in there. It's got Wi-Fi 6AX, which is the latest version. And they've got a bunch of specs which are running on 1080p low FSR balanced when available to get these average frame rates, but saying that you can run Hades at over 200 frames per second, Cyberpunk 2077 at 60 frames per second, GTA 5 at 110, Red Dead Redemption 2 at 42. The list goes on. They're pretty impressive benchmarks.
Well, hang on a minute. You just missed one that I was quite interested in you saying there. They claimed that The Last of Us runs at 60 FPS. They claim that Elden Ring runs at FPS. I guess at low.
I can believe that. I mean, I've got The Last of Us on a Steam Deck running at 40 to 45 FPS. Yeah. And this is on low settings, so it's going to look like potato. And I think that's something to bear in mind is that when you're running this on a 4K screen that's 55, 65 inches in your living room, it's not going to be as forgiving as an 8-inch screen on a handheld.
Yeah, you're going to feel that. Whenever I dock something to my Steam Deck, and I know that, let's say, trying to think of a game that I'm not under embargo for. Let's say, I can't think of one. When I plug a game in,
let's say Balatro.
No, because Balatro always looks good no matter what you do. But there are games that not even Elden Ring. Like there are games that run really well on the Steam Deck as is, and I wouldn't say Elden Ring runs fine at like 30, but I'm talking like it's a 60 FPS game and it's running on 720p. It looks great. I'm enjoying it. I plug it into that TV and I put it on the big screen. All of a sudden, I'm like, ugh.
Oh, I've had that with the Resident Evil games. I played through Resident Evil 3, and I started playing through Resident Evil 7 on the Steam Deck. And they looked fine. They looked great. They ran wonderfully, and I was having a great time. And then the moment you plug them into the TV, you're like, oh, you can really see this is a little bit of a softer image, that you see some more of those like artifacts and that junk.
The textures don't look as good. There are things you start to notice. And if you set the system to be 1080p, then you have to deal with like massive frame drops, or it just doesn't feel quite right. If it's, which is why I prefer to use things like Moonlight and stuff like that. And I think that if you're buying this machine and you're spending the amount you're spending on this machine, I think them targeting or at least suggesting that you can play all of these games, I don't think that's what this system should be for. Personally,
no,
I think should be an emulation machine that sits under your TV, not a little computer. But that's just.
I think that's probably what they're focused on, right? Mm-hmm. It's EmuDeck. It comes preloaded with EmuDeck. The operating system of choice they've used is Bazzite, which we've spoken about before in the show. It's a good alternative to SteamOS, which still doesn't have a public release. Comes complete with that cool game mode setting that you would expect, really, and it can kind of boot straight into that, which EmuDeck has promised that the Emu machine has. Also, obviously, comes preloaded with EmuDeck, and complete with that, they've got the benchmarks for CMU, PCSX2, RPCS3, Xenia, and Dolphin. All seems to run as you would expect, 60 FPS across the board on most of them. RPCS3 and Xenia can get 40 to 60 FPS. So I think it is going to be a good little machine for that. I think it also serves a purpose for people like you who would want a machine under their TV to use Moonlight with, or to stream maybe Steam Link to if they wanted to. That is an option there as well. And I think the EM1 machine would have been phenomenal for that.
Yes, I think so. I do think that is quite expensive for what it is, like especially if you're talking £500 just to stream to it, when you could do the same with like
a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but if you then have the option of then switching straight into the emulation mode and playing all your favorite PS2 games, or all those games you want to play, maybe even that PS4 emulator when that comes out, running Bloodborne in a couple of months when that's up and running. You never know. Doubt it. But that to be able to swap between them is a nifty little machine. And then you've got the dock. Why don't you explain the dock to people? Because I learned about this like when you mentioned it to me at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, so they've promised that there's going to be a docking station that's going to be developed after they've shipped the EM2, which is due to ship in December 2024 if they meet their goal. And the dock essentially adds discrete graphics. So it's kind of an external GPU solution for the EmuDeck machine. So I presume you could also use any external GPU if you had one with this, because it presumably will just go into that USB-C port in the back, which I would imagine is USB 4 if it can support these docking stations. And that is a Radeon 7600 desktop. So rather than the 7600M that's built in, it's the desktop variant, which means that the APU inside of the EmuDeck machine can just be used for CPU, and then all of the graphic stuff can be pushed out to the docking station, and you would connect up your presumably you would connect up your like HDMI to that instead of to the EmuDeck itself.
Yeah, much the same way you do with a GPU in the computer, I guess. Unless you're an idiot like me who every now and again forgets that and is like, why won't this turn on? Well, I've plugged it straight into the motherboard. It's funny when it's got this sat on top of the dock. It sort of looks like you could add infinite layers to that, like when
it's like an old hi-fi.
Yeah, or I was thinking more like a Mega Drive, the Sonic games, where you have Sonic 3, that goes into there, then you have Knuckles underneath it, and then you have, that goes into the thing, which this is a Sega-looking console, so that makes sense.
I do also like the fact that it means you could potentially upgrade this and swap things out. It is just a case you can open. Say you aren't happy with that 112 gigabyte SSD, you could put 1 terabyte in there. You could potentially upgrade the APU further down the line when there's a new one that comes out. You could swap out this external GPU for a different external GPU if you wanted to. Those options are there when you're building a PC that aren't there with something like the Steam Deck. And then, so they're saying with the dock, at 1080p, Cyberpunk jumps from 60 FPS to 160 FPS. GTA 5 jumps from 110 to 170 FPS. Elden Ring is 60, still 60 FPS because I think it's capped at 60 FPS that game.
It is.
But you can then, of course, unlock 4K with that. So there's a 1080p USB HDMI port on the EM2. I think it's 1080p, or is it 4K?
I think it is.
It is 4K, so it unlocks 4K. You can play 4K. Medium setting Cyberpunk will run at 40 FPS. They say. The Last of Us 30 FPS. Elden Ring at 40 FPS. So it does kind of open up some options there, but God knows how much that's going to cost. Presumably, that's also going to be hundreds. And at that point, you're reaching a point where you're almost at probably 800, 900 pounds. Is it worth it at that point, or do you just build a PC?
I put together a spec recently for a friend of mine who wanted it wasn't Pete. No, Pete did his own spec, and I just nodded away at him because he did well.
Have Intel and have it melt again.
Okay, that was all him. I did try and recommend against that. But a friend of mine, I've got his PC right here in front of me. It started to die and stop working, so I did my usual magic, got it working again. And he said, "Oh, I might want to think about building something new." And this has got like an old 1060 that the first GPU I ever had. It's got like a really old i7, like 4th gen, something stupid like that. It's a very old system. So I put together like a 1080p would last him years system that's run all the games he wants to play, and that was £700, I think. And with the option then of upgrading from there, if you're looking at £640 for the wait, hang on, why am I confused here?
In the EU,
the VAT included. In the EU, it's £640. You're only 100 and something pounds off of a PC that's as capable as this is. That's then also easier to modify. It's got a 4 GPU in it, so you can swap them out. So you don't have to get this eGPU. You can swap out like the 4
and you
GPU.
can get a case that isn't hideous.
Yeah, you can get a bigger case. You can there's all sorts of things you can do. You get more USB slots. You're not limited to what this does. While I think that the ease of this, because what a lot of people want is they want a console. They want to be able to buy something and they just plug it into the TV and it works. And I feel like this offers that.
It definitely does, because obviously it comes preloaded with Bazzite, so it's and EmuDeck. So it's literally turn it on, drag your ROMs into the folder, and then away you go, or
Yep.
you open Steam and you download your games. That's done. If you buy a PC, it's like, well, do I go down the Linux route? Do I install Windows 11? Do I have to buy a key for that? And the keys for Windows can be expensive.
Yes, they can.
So you've got to add that onto the cost potentially if you're building your own PC. And then it's like, now I've got to uninstall all of this shit that Microsoft's put on my computer, like Candy Crush, and then I install all the stuff that I want.
Uninstall Candy Crush? I don't think so.
Whereas, it's like all Microsoft Solitaire, not bothered about the Solitaire collection these days. But then you've got to install all the stuff that you want on there, and that does take time. Whereas this is a out of the box solution, which is appealing to people.
Now, what I do wonder about this is on the Steam Deck. I find it quite easy just to hop in, use my touchpads and my triggers, go into what is it called? Go into Firefox. There we go, and hop on. And sorry, what I meant to say is I find it quite easy to rip my games directly off of my discs and my cartridges.
Correct.
To put into the folders. I wonder if this is going to be harder on a system like this. Well, I guess you just put a mouse and keyboard in it, and then you're away to go. Right?
Yeah, do a mouse and keyboard, or like me, you have the old Steam controller. And
No, don't do that. Just get a mouse and keyboard. Don't buy the Steam controller.
Yeah, Pete's got one of those like little keyboards with the built-in
that folds out. And it's got the that seems clever.
And they're pretty good. You hook that up and you can just use it as a standard PC. Then browser. I've been considering getting one of those for when I'm also going on archive.org to rip my own ROMs from my own hardware.
Yeah, that's where I put them all. That's where I ripped them.
I store them there for safekeeping myself.
Yeah. So, I put them on there because it's easier for me to just hop back on and find them again, than have to find the disc, plug the disc in. Difficult.
Yeah, I think this is a cool idea, a cool concept, but I don't know that it has legs. Unfortunately, I feel like this is maybe a one and done thing for them. I could see maybe Neo expanding into doing more of this kind of thing. I know they do have one of these devices already, but maybe they kind of do something similar. I could see ROG doing something like this and just basically put the Ally into a box without a screen. They've already got their external GPU solution.
Good one.
Not anymore. On the Ally X, you can just plug any eGPU in.
That's true. That is
so
true.
They've got that solution there already. The people I really want to do this are Valve. I really, really would wish they would do something like this, but I struggle to see £640 worth of value in this for me. I agree. I could run a lot of games that I want to play on a Raspberry Pi. I do it on my arcade machine behind me that runs on a Raspberry Pi.
Oh yeah, cool.
And I've had very little issue. It's only when you get into like the PS3 era that you would struggle.
I just find the versatility of the Steam Deck does that really well. That I can have all of those things and play them on the handheld. But as soon as I'm like, let's look at this retro, let's get this retro game, up on a big TV, I can do that. Because I can just plug it in because it is this, and I don't know if I would buy a separate device that just does this. Because Pete was talking about taking his old Steam Deck and turning it into sort of one of these where you just it lives inside under a CRT or whatever. And my question is, why don't you just use the one you already have and just plug it in whenever you want to use it? Why do you need one that sits there forever doing that thing when you have something that all your progress syncs across quite easily? You don't have to worry about paying and getting the sync. You don't have to worry about things not syncing over properly. All the things you might be worried about not working because you're trying to use it across two devices. It's like having two switches and being like, you pick up one switch, like, this is actually on the other switch, or this isn't my main switch.
Which I know Chewy did from Nintendo Noise. He would always have one switch that was basically just his Animal Crossing machine, and then he'd play everything else on something else. And I really wish I had two when we were doing Ring Fit all the time, because it's just like that was a pain in the ass to have to take out and like make sure I charged the controller and did all of that stuff with.
And you can do that with a Switch Lite, I guess, because you need the Joy-Cons to strap on.
You do need the Joy-Cons, and it does really need to be docked to a TV.
Yeah, I did. I think I tried it once in my kitchen, and as I was like doing it, I was like, oh, hang on, now all of a sudden I'm on a 6-inch whatever it is screen that's like 6 feet away from me. I can't see this. This is before I realized I needed glasses as well, though. Probably related in some way.
Yeah. So with this, I'm just like, I think really we have to wait and see. The FAQ says that if they don't reach the goal, which is got 53 days left, and it's £53,000 that they want to reach, they've reached 34%, that they're just going to refund everyone. I don't know if they reach that goal. I kind of hope.
It doesn't look it.
I hope
I
that they
thought this was
do.
like a success already. I didn't I didn't realize. Obviously, I hadn't looked into this enough. Apparently, that I didn't realize this wasn't already a sure thing. I didn't realize we were waiting on this to potentially get funded. And looking at that, I don't see it unless there's a big push. It's one of those things that as soon as you hear about it, you're like, oh yeah, cool, and you get it. But it seems like people know about this, and it's not getting like huge uptake.
Yeah.
It's just quite an expensive thing, isn't it?
It's very expensive, which you would expect. It's a small scale, right? Then they're not building tons of these things, so they can't really do it at scale. But I think I would either want to build myself a PC, and I think a lot of PC people are like that they just want to build their own spec. They want to pick a case that they like the look of and do it that way. Or I just don't know why you wouldn't just buy a Steam Deck. If all you're doing is buying one of these for emulation, just get a Steam Deck. It makes sense to do that. EmuDeck was built for it from the beginning, and it runs perfectly. You can dock that to a TV with no issues running any of these like emulated games. And if you want to play something more intensive, well, most of the time, the games that they've listed run pretty well on the Steam Deck anyway. It seems like it's probably going to be comparable specs to that, but at a much greater cost. And the fact that it doesn't, to have that versatility that you spoke about, where you can take it away with you and lives under your TV.
Yeah.
I think personally, most people, for the games that they play, you could play them on a Steam Deck, or just buy yourself a Raspberry Pi and just install RetroPie on it and just dump your ROMs on there. And it's no problem whatsoever. You'll probably be able to play most of the games that you want. The Raspberry Pi is a pretty advanced device now. And they're cheap. They're like 60 quid.
Yeah, they are cheap. And all the, obviously you've already got your games collection. I just wish that, because the thing is that EmuDeck makes it so easy and configures it all so easy that it is nice to have that as an option to not have to.
I agree, but RetroPie also does that. It comes with emulation station, so you've got that UI layer for it. It's designed and built for the Raspberry Pi, and you can just hook up a controller, and it's easy peasy. It's no problem whatsoever, and it can identify what controller you've got as well. I love what the EmuDeck team do. I think their software is phenomenal. The choice to use Bazzite here, I think, was the correct one. Having it preloaded is great. I hope that we see more manufacturers doing that, but I struggle to see how they meet their goal, unfortunately. So I don't know that this goes much further.
Yeah, I like I said earlier, I think it's the logical next step for them personally to try and put this or make a device that's just for EmuDeck. I just don't know if that's what people want from EmuDeck. I don't know if they'd, I also, it looks ugly. There's not, if it had a more nice under the TV design, or it had a branding on it,
I
had
think
a
that's what I want. I
logo.
want something that's discreet, a little black box that I don't see, that's quiet and out of the way. And I'm probably never going to use any of those front USB ports.
Yeah.
I want to just hook it up with Bluetooth.
Do you know what it should look like? Is a 2-foot long Wi-Fi router in black and white that doesn't fit in any TV unit.
And maybe when you want to put it vertical, you've got to use a stupid little disc.
Yeah. Or maybe the disc actually, when you have it horizontal, the disc just flops around. That'd be great. That's great design. We need to get our best. We need to get people on this.
Yeah, as much as people mocked the Xbox for being a mini fridge, I love that design in comparison to the PS5. The PS5 is fucking hideous.
Yeah. One big fan. Just one big fan. Lovely.
Yeah. And both are super quiet, although my PS5, the drive, is loud as hell. Whenever there's a disc spinning in that thing, I don't understand why it's so loud.
As soon as I've done Astrobot, my brother's getting my PS5.
Oh, yeah, the reviews for that were good.
Oh, yeah, they were good. I'm very excited for that. It's just another one to add to my list, my ever-growing list of games I need to play that's coming out in September. It's a massive list.
Yeah, well, I am excited for some of the games that you've been playing that we can't talk about. And the fact that Balatro, that we've spoken about at length on this show, is now coming to mobile, means my life is over. Completely over.
I play enough of this at work as it is on my PC. There's like sometimes I'll just have a game running, and then if I'm like, oh, I've got no one's looking, I'll pop it open and I'll play a bit. Don't fire me. But legally now I've said that they can't, so that's good. But now I'm wondering if it's on my phone, how I'm just nipping to the loo for other things, and all of a sudden I'm in there for 2 hours. Oh, where's Max? Oh, I think he just
he's vaping and playing Balatro in the toilet.
Yeah, he went to look at his phone a second ago, and that was 4 hours ago. Where is he? And I come out like victorious. Sorry, I drag myself along the floor because my legs are so dead I can't stand anymore.
Absolute time thief, Max.
Oh,
what are you doing?
Oh, you're thinking of the game? No, me as well. Yeah,
yeah, you are. You are a time thief, and also
walk out with my swag bag full of clocks.
Yeah, I'm curious. So, if anyone listening is interested in these, or what is it that compels you? Because I get that the software and the ease of use out of the box is compelling, but for me, it's just like, oh, it's a lot of money to spend. More than a PS5 or an Xbox for something like this.
Yeah, I'm interested if I was to spec up a mini computer.
Do it.
How much that would cost?
Let's do it.
Let's make
that a challenge for Max to spec up his own flip screen machine.
Yeah,
and
I'll wait 2 weeks.
I want to see what the flip screen machine looks like, and other listeners should do that too.
Yeah,
and share it in the Discord. Let us know what your flip screen machine looks like. Try and aim for the price point of about £700. If you can get a good machine with good specs that can run all of these emulators, that I can just install Bazzite and EmuDeck on, which won't take me more than like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Then do it. I think I'd love to see that. And I bet there's other retro inspired cases that have more, I don't know, life in them than this grey circle thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what cases they've got. It's not good content though, so I'll do it after.
Max was already doing.
I was already looking. Yeah, I was.
So before we wrap up, the current progress of the Indiegogo, they are currently at the prototype 3D CAD model stage. They've not done the 3D print testing. And obviously, then it
Wait, is this just a mock-up? Is this just? It's not even like
I believe so. According to their project timeline, they've done hardware selection, done hardware OC and testing, hardware stock securing. They are currently in the prototype 3D CAD model test and 3D print test. Then, in October, they've got to do a prototype for the FCC and the CE to test it, and then it can go to manufacturing and assembly in November. So they're not as far along, I think, as maybe people think they are. I struggle to see how this project moves forward, which is a shame because I do love what the EmuDeck team are doing, and I do think that there is a call for these little machines. I just don't think it's maybe as great as people think it is in terms of the call, not the machine itself.
I think this is good as a concept. The execution isn't great just yet. It's I don't know.
It needs to be done by like someone like Valve, who's just like, we're going to build one of these for 350 quid.
Yeah,
and you can put it under your TV, and you can just access Steam and just buy things.
And it's just a single unit. It's not a 3D printed case with some bits inside. It's just a unit built like a console is, where it's all packed on top of each other, and something like that. So I'm really looking at cases now. I'm really looking at mini ITX cases.
Well, I'm gonna let Max finish his shopping list, and I'm gonna thank the Patreon producers for the month of September. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Gabriel Hasselmite, aka Sobi, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats, and also Boobies, Ty the Dude, Voodoo Vic, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support at patreon.com/flipscreengames. If you want to get involved, you can head over to our website, flipscreen.games. Over there, you'll find links everywhere on the web. our Patreon and our Discord server where you can come and answer questions, share your flip screen machines with us. I want to know what they look like, and I may even buy one because I still don't have a decent PC. I'm running an old 2016 MacBook Pro to do this, and in the middle of this recording, it crashed and completely shut down. So I do need to build a new PC. Pete's just melted, so we're not doing well on the hardware front. Max is the only one with a decent PC.
Yeah,
so
ticking along nicely. I'm looking at it now like a proud father.
Please build me a PC. You can also find our sister podcasts, the Flip Screen Games podcast, where this week we spoke all about Concord and the absolute complete shitstorm that was.
Yeah.
And Nintendo Noise, where this week we spoke about our hype for Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. But yeah, Max, I presume you're not buying one of these machines.
No, I won't be. No, I'll be saving the money and just using my Steam Deck. I've done so much emulating on my Steam Deck in the last month that and that's across TV and in my hands. I'm very happy with how that works. I don't need a dedicated device. I think I just one of those I'd like that. I like the idea of that, but I don't need it.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. But if you're not the same as us, if you've backed this on day one and you're really excited about it, let us know in the description or over on our Discord server. And yeah, we shall see you on the next one.
I'll see you in 2 weeks. But
we'll see. Oh yeah, Max will see you in 2 weeks. Is what, you're going skydiving or something? What's going on?
No, skydive's the week after I get back. But I'm just on holiday. I'm just going on holiday. I'm just going to unplug and spend a couple of weeks with my Steam Deck.
Nice. Yeah. Where are you going on holiday, or do you not want
I'm going to be in Turkey. That's a big enough country that I think
he's going to come back with the purest white teeth.
Yeah, I'm getting a
killer hairline.
Yeah, I'm getting beard filler. I'm going to come back looking like I've just bought a new build house and that my living room is crushed grey velvet.
Are you going to have those, those little side tables where it's all made out of mirror?
Yeah, of course I am. Yeah. I'm actually going to go to the Audi dealership tomorrow just to sort of put my deposit down on that.
Oh yeah, the A1 that you've then debadged and put black badges on instead, so you look really cool.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Tinted windows. Yeah.
Tinted windows. Don't forget the 3D number plate.
Yeah, of course.
Have one of those.
Chips with the Chinese as well. Enough stereotyping.
See you on the next one, everyone.
Bye.